It's 2021. You know what that means.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Spoiler number 1 is Dr. Lee frowns. It stinks.
What is going on? What is going on?
Episode 124, submission number 15, The Ropers. The Ropers aired on ABC from March 13th, 1979 to May 22nd, 1980 for a total of 28 episodes over 2 seasons.
Well, this is the first show of 2021. And boy, we're starting the year off with a bang, literally, of our first new episode.
Oh, but yes. In the annals of sitcom spin-offs, there have been few TV shows to earn the amount of infamy that has been earned by the Ropers. I could think of Joey and the Cleveland Show maybe in a solid second and third. But those are entries for another day.
I'm curious why you say the Cleveland Show when it had a good 4-year run, or is it just a case of the wrong character got the spinoff?
You are correct, sir.
Yeah. Well, we do have the Die Hard episode of the Cleveland Show on the list, so.
Yeah.
And you can never go wrong with the Frap Attack episode of the Cleveland Show.
You can never go wrong with the Frap Attack. And also, there were episodes where there were biting social commentary. Yeah. But again, we're getting off track here.
I got Frap in my stash! Oh, I'm sorry.
Or the episode where Cleveland and his friends went on a nature retreat sponsored by Nature Boy Ric Flair. Woo! Woo! But we'll get to that when we do Ric Flair commercials in the summer.
But right now, let's talk about, okay, follow me here. It's a spin-off of a TV show that's based on a British TV show that is itself based off of a British TV show that was a spin-off of the original British TV show.
Man, I think you might need to diagram that sentence for me.
Okay, so, as you know, Man of the House begat Three's Company. In the UK, Man of the House spun off its characters of George and Mildred into the TV series George and Mildred. Of course, George and Mildred Roper. Those crazy Brits are calling it.
Okay, now that makes sense.
Now it makes sense? Okay. So ABC, already riding off the high of the success of Three's Company after one seasons?
It was about like a season and a half.
It was a season and a half. And they wanted to sort of expand upon it. So what better way to expand upon it than to adapt the spin-off into another spin-off?
Might as well cash in on the popularity.
Mm-hmm. So they spun off George and Mildred into the Ropers. With, of course, Norman Fell and Audra Lindley reprising their characters as Stanley and Helen Roper. Now, if you remember the story, Stanley and Helen had sold their apartment to Mr. Furley, and this was all in a season 3 episode of Three's Company, and decided to move to a place called Cheviot Hills, which is a well-to-do neighborhood in Los Angeles on the west side.
West
Which I
Side!
Which I didn't even know the west side could be well-to-do, but anyway.
Well, it was 1979.
Okay.
I thought the west side of Los Angeles was the Pacific Ocean. Prove me wrong.
Okay, so here we have Stanley and Helen now at Cheviot Hills, but they're a little bit out of sorts, and therein lies the comedy. Know what I mean? Therein lies the comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Because what you have here is Stanley and Helen, who are way outclassed by their neighbors, two of which are played by Jeffrey Tambor and Patricia McCormick. Jeffrey Tambor plays Jeffrey P. Brooks III, who is this haughty, well-to-do, nose in the air, I'm looking down on you out of comedy realtor who just happens to live next door to the Ropers. And his wife, who I'm reasonably certain could do a whole lot better than Jeffrey, I mean, come on, is played by Patricia McCormick. She's one Ann Brooks, who is the homemaker, the wife of Jeffrey, and about as long-suffering with Jeffrey as Helen was with Stanley.
And apparently, if you watch the opening credits, she apparently plays tennis a lot.
Yeah.
Well, as hoity-toity to-do people would be back in the 70s.
Hoity-toity country clubbish sort of people?
Yes, with their noses held up and a little snobbery in their voice, looking down at the lower class.
And then you have David Brooks, the 7-year-old son of the Brooks family, played by Evan Cohen, who is just this precocious little tyke who likes to hang out with Helen and likes to antagonize Stanley.
And precocious is the exact same word I would have chosen.
Well, what else are you going to think of when you think of a 7-year-old boy with hoity-toity parents and neighbors who are they're equal parts beneath them and friendly?
Yeah, precocious would be the word I'd use.
But lest you think it's all about these two families, there are additional characters on this show. We have Ethel Ann Brewster, Helen's snobby older sister, played by Dina Dietrich, who is best known as... Tell me if this sounds familiar. If it tastes like butter, but it's not, it's chiffon.
Oh, yeah.
She played Mother Nature in that commercial. It's not nice to fool Mother Nature.
Yeah, and we should also note that she just passed away within the last about month and a half.
Oh.
Yeah.
She passed away November 21st.
Yep.
Of 2020, obviously, because we're in a new year, so we need to actually state what year we're talking about. If we're
that
talking
would
about the
that
past.
would be that would help. And we have her husband Hubert Ann Brewster, who is Helen's brother-in-law, played by Rod Colvin, who is his claim to fame was being Katharine Hepburn's personal masseuse.
Ooh.
Oh, I thought you were going to go, woo! I thought you were going to go high there.
No.
No. But I'll tell you something else. He was also in a few other series. Man Against Crime, Sanford and Son. He was in Grady, Marcus Welby, Mary Hartman. And, he was actually in an episode of future installment, The Edge of Night.
Oh.
So there's something to look forward to. And then you have Debbie Hopper, who is a girl that Stan Lee sees at the hot tub in the neighborhood. And, Mike, you're going to like this.
I know who it is. Just say it.
Lois Areno, a.k.a. Lois Hamilton.
A.k.a. one of the Card Sharks dealers.
Oh!
None of the original Card Sharks.
Yeah. Lois Areno, or Lois Hamilton, was a dealer on Card Sharks back in the 70s. And also, she made a couple of appearances on perennial favorite around these parts, the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour.
And of course, very lovely lady, unfortunately died quite young. And then you have Stanley's best friend and one of Helen's enemies, Joey, played by Richard B. Schull, who is a bit of a character actor. He's known for playing sort of theater credits, mostly, but his screen credits include Clute, Splash, Unfaithfully Yours, Garbo Talks, and Howard Stern's Private Parts. He was also in Holmes and Yo-Yo, future installment there.
Yeah, darn right, future installment there.
And we also have Helen and Ethel's mother, played by Lucille Benson, who is known mostly for sort of Broadway in the 1930s, and she did have a big commercial break in Bosom Buddies, and was also on WUSA. And then you had another sort of sibling in Helen's family, yet another sibling. She was introduced in season 2. Hilda, played by Lucy Lee Flippin, who was known more for Bob Newhart's show, Edge of Night, Little House on the Prairie, Flo, Amazing Stories.
Oh, Flo's got to be on the list.
But if you are a fan of Small Wonders, she is Mrs. Jennings, the hoity-toity, snotty, snot-nosed social worker who likes to drop by, often unannounced, on the Lawsons. We'll cover that when we cover season 1 of Small Wonder. And also making their debut is Jenny Bollinger, played by Louise Valance, who nowadays is known more as a voiceover actress. If you've ever watched Reboot, she plays the character of Mouse. And if you've ever seen Zoobly Zoo, she's What's That Kangaroo? But yeah, nowadays she's a Canada-based voice actor. Wow, she's done a lot of voice work. If I were to name all of those notable characters, we'd be here all night. But back to her character here on The Ropers, Jenny is a young woman who's been living in the Ropers' storeroom, which I didn't even know the Ropers could have. But then again, when you sell the apartment, and you get that crazy Ralph Furley money. Am I right?
Well, yeah. If the Ropers were still supers when they moved to the new place, there surely would be a storage room. You got to keep your cleaning supplies and chemicals and all that someplace. Am I wrong?
Stanley needs a place to keep his plunger.
Yeah, he can't be holding it throughout all the show and be on the credits.
Okay, now you remember when I said that this was a spin-off of a British-based sitcom that was itself a British-based sitcom spun off from that same British-based sitcom. You will never guess whose idea it was to spin off Three's Company. Actually, you probably will, because...
Hold on. Let me guess.
Go ahead.
Does his name rhyme with Dreg Milverman?
Yeah, it does. So, Silverman approached Norman Fell and Audra Lindley with the idea of doing a spin-off after the first full season. But they wanted to wait for the next season to see if the show could actually prove itself. It did. but this time the producers themselves, Nichols, Ross, and West, brought up the idea of spinning off Three's Company into the Ropers, as well as new ABC head Tony Tomopoulos, because by that time Fred Silverman has gone to NBC, and we covered all this in a previous episode. Now, Audra Lind. Now, in one of the weirdest cases of life imitating art, Audra Lindley was all for it. She was all for, getting on board with the spinoff. Norman Fell, on the other hand, it took a little bit of doing to bring him in. I mean, Norman Fell, he was reluctant. He liked his role on Three's Company. I don't think he thought he could carry a show by himself. He thought the show would be unsuccessful and put him out of his job. But then Three's Company, the producers of Three's Company, Nichols, Ross, and West, they contractually promised Bell they would give the Ropers a year. 1 year to prove itself. And if the show was canceled before that, then those two, Audra Lindley and Norman Fell, would be able to come back to Three's Company.
Okay, question.
Yes.
1 year or 1 season?
I'm guessing it was 1 year. Because now it did last 2 seasons, but like 1 calendar year, which is weird because, again, this show started in March. Its season would have had to have been done in June at the latest.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is because originally the first season was 6 episodes, and that's all they were given for starters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm wondering if it's 1 season instead of versus 1 year, if they could have potentially been given only 6 episodes. But also, Three's Company was on such a high, I don't think it's any surprise that it got a 2nd season. The ratings weren't actually bad for starters.
No, even when Three's Company had gone on hiatus for some reason, and the Ropers didn't have that Three's Company lead-in. I believe the Ropers followed Three's Company in the listing, and it still did well at the time. And over the summer, they reran episodes on Sundays, and the reruns did well for summer episodes. It's like everything that could happen, everything that could happen to bolster the show's success did bolster the show's success. And the Ropers were riding off a really good high. And then somebody had an idea.
Well, what idea was that?
Let's put the Ropers on Saturdays!
Oh.
So they put the Ropers on Saturdays, and guess what happened?
It tanked.
It tanked! Oh my god. It went from in the top 10 with Three's Company to 50 in the second week of the second season. It was in 52nd place. And you know what? It wasn't just that it was on Saturdays. It was on Saturdays opposite Chips.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah, that'll kill it. I do want to actually add one thing, or give you a slight correction, Chico.
What's that?
The Ropers did not immediately follow Three's Company.
Oh, my mistake.
The Three's Company aired at 9 o'clock Eastern, and the Ropers were on at 10 o'clock Eastern.
Oh.
At 9:30 was a little show called Taxi.
Oh.
Plus, if you look at the 8 to 9 o'clock hour, that was Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. So you had ABC's powerhouse comedies that night. Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Three's Company, Taxi, The Ropers, and then, I'm sure this is an entry, and if it's not, well, I'm sure we have a good reason to do it. 10:30 on Fridays was 13 Queens Boulevard, at least taking a look at April 17th of 1979, which would have been about a month into the show.
Yeah, and one thing I want to note, you mentioned Taxi. Taxi was also in its first season in 78-79.
So it was probably given that same deal by Fred Silverman. We're going to give you a year to prove yourself. Oh, and yeah, Taxi. Yeah, that didn't go anywhere, did it?
Well, it lasted 5 years.
Yeah,
It had a good run.
it had a decent run.
And
It was on 2 networks for crying out
Yeah,
years.
I think it's one of the few shows that won the Emmy every year it was on.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It might be the only show that's won an Emmy every year it was on.
Yeah, I'm guessing Frasier and or Schitt's Creek did not have such an honor.
No.
No,
Oh.
Schitt's Creek only hit the jackpot this past year.
Its final season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was like 1 year where Frasier lost Best Comedy to Seinfeld.
They put it on Saturday opposite a little show called Chips, and nobody watched it. It got so bad that Norman Bell himself went to ABC and begged them to move to time slots. I don't know if they did or they didn't, but actually they did move the show back to Thursdays at 9:30 after Barney Miller, but by then it was basically too little too late. Even though the 3 episodes that aired after Barney Miller were some of the highest rated in season 2. I mean, the show itself finished 25 out of 61 shows in prime time, but so did Soap, and ABC really was committed more to Soap than it was to the Ropers, and they ended up canceling the show. But they didn't cancel the characters. The Ropers made one more appearance on Three's Company.
Yeah, that would be March of 81.
An interesting thing, we were talking, Mike, you and me, about whether they meant 1 year or 1 season.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Truth by Consensus Wikipedia, and it looks like they had 1 season, because I got this. Check this out. The cancellation of the Ropers came just 1 month after the 1-year contractual deadline had passed. Bell would later state that he always believed the decision to pull the plug on the show had been made much earlier, but that the network deliberately postponed making the cancellation official until after the 1-year mark, specifically to be relieved of the obligation to allow Bell and Lindsley to return to Three's Company. There was an attempt by producers to sell the show to Silverman over at NBC. Silverman, however, passed on it too.
I'm sorry. Given how bad NBC was at the time, I have to laugh at that.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, Fred Silverman may have done them a favor.
Hey, Fred Silverman probably was like, no thanks. I got this great show with McLean Stevenson called Hello, Larry. I'm sure we don't need this at all.
Yeah. This was not the end. And we actually did research on this before the show, and I don't know if it was Mike or Greg that brought this up, but remember when NBC was doing prime time at 7:30?
Yeah, prime time starts at 7:30.
We're reading this blurb directly here. That 1986, D.L. Taftner, who was the distributor at the time of both the Ropers and Three's Company, they revealed their plans for a spin-off of the Ropers called Three Apartments, which would star Bell and Lindsley as landlords of a 3-unit apartment building. And the show was either offered as a 2-year 44-episode package in syndication or as a 1-season 52-episode package with the prime time starts at 7:30 deal. Guest stars would include John Ritter, Joyce DeWitt, Richard Klein, and Don Knotts from Three's Company, Robert Mandan from Three's a Crowd, and Jim J. Bullock and Nancy Dussault from Too Close for Comfort.
Okay, hold on a second. If you remember when we did Primetime Starts at 7:30, didn't they have a very low budget on their shows? I think it was to the extent of maybe $300,000 per episode.
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay, this sounds like super cheap Three's Company / the Ropers. Because unless, it gets more money from the network, there's no way NBC is going to funnel, as we said, 52 episodes times 300,000. That would end up being, if I do my math really fast, like 16, 17 million dollars in 1987 money, mind you, into this product, which was a spin-off of a show that really wasn't all that good anyhow.
Yeah. And it would be interesting to throw the characters from Too Close to Comfort in the mix, because Too Close for Comfort was also based on a British sitcom.
But also, we should remember that 1987, since we're talking about Too Close for Comfort / The Ted Knight Show, this, I believe, would have been the first full year that Jim J. Bullock was a regular on Hollywood Squares.
Yes.
So he had his commitments already lined up, and he was doing pretty good from what I remember on Hollywood Squares. I mean, he had a not so good time financially afterwards. It was tough for him to get a job, but he, from what I've read and seen, it sounds like he was doing pretty decent financially after.
He was not hurting.
He was not hurting.
He was doing rather well for somebody who was not the center square.
Hey, Jim J. Bullock was in Spaceballs.
He was in Spaceballs. He was the
prince who was very tired.
He was the prince who almost married Princess Vespa, but did not because he was very tired.
Okay, not to go too far off track here. Jim J. Bullock and Joan Rivers, two Hollywood Squares regulars, were in Spaceballs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why does that movie not get more acclaim? All you needed was Shadow Stevens doing the announcing over the PA system. There you go. You got like the entire cast of Hollywood Squares on Spaceballs.
Hey, they blew all their budget on John Hurt's cameo.
Yep. And also the model of the starship that turns into Megamaid.
Damn it, now I want to see Spaceballs again.
Hey, it's getting a 4K release by Kino Lorber.
Nice.
Like I said, Kino Lorber, they're bringing it.
Let's watch some episodes, shall we?
Should we?
Well, sure, why not? There are only 28 of them.
Okay.
Okay, we'll start with Season 1, Episode 1, Moving On. Based on the episode of the same name by Johnny Mortimer and Brian Cook, this episode is sometimes included in Three's Company syndication as an additional Three's Company episode. Helen bugs Stanley into finally looking for a new house. Stanley, however, wants to buy a mobile home. Really?
Why would Stanley want a mobile home?
Yeah, I mean...
So you can see the country? I don't know how old he was at the time or how old his character was.
I can imagine Stanley Roper deciding, hey, I could get a mobile home, and whenever I don't like my neighbors, I can always pick it up and move somewhere else. By the way, I will never like my neighbors.
Valid point.
Right? Okay, Episode 2, also based on an episode of George and Mildred, The Bad Penny by Johnny Mortimer and Brian Cook, is called Friends and Neighbors. Stanley embarrasses Helen when he locks himself outside of their house in nothing but underwear while she attends a posh party next door.
Ooh!
That's what I was waiting for. We had a few guest stars, but I don't think they were in anything. You know what? Roger Bowen, he was in the MASH movie as Colonel Blake, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, so he's the movie version of McLean Stevenson's character.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
And
did he die over the Sea of Japan?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, boy.
There were no survivors.
Next episode. Okay.
Thank you. Save us.
Episode 3, also based off of a George and Mildred episode, Your Money or Your Life. Stanley thinks he's dying when results from his doctor don't come right away. The doctor, played by Hope Clark, who is a dancer, vocalist, and known as a choreographer in Porgy and Bess.
Okay.
And by the way, the first appearance of Marilyn Graham by Lois Hamilton, Mike.
Why do you keep saying my name? Do you think I'm like sexually attracted to her?
You know more about Lois Hamilton than I do.
She was a dealer on Card Sharks. She appeared on like 2 or 3 weeks of Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour. That's it. That's the list.
Okay. All right. Episode 4, based on the Dorothy Letters episode, The Doris Letters. Helen thinks Stanley needs help and takes him to a marriage counselor after she finds many love letters from him that turned out were for Doris Day. What?
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 Did Stanley have a thing for Doris Day?
I think Stanley had a thing for Doris Day, which is news to me. So, there's something.
I got nothing.
The 5th episode was also based on an episode of George and Mildred, The Family Planning. Stanley gets upset when Helen's mother and sister Ethel visit, and he thinks that her mother has plans to stay with them permanently.
You won't believe what happens.
Oh, boy. And, of course, this is the first appearance of Lucille Benson as Mother, and Robert Colpin as Hubert Armbruster, Dina Dietrich as Ethel Armbruster, and Lucy Lippin as Hilda. And the season finale, also based on a episode of George and Mildred.
Man, what a coincidence! All the episodes of the first season are based on the British spin-off.
Hey, they had to get the material from somewhere.
And let's just say this, as a spoiler for later this year, we're going to talk about another series that did that, but in reverse.
And also another series that did this directly and was even shorter lived than the Ropers.
Yeah. Okay. Opportunity knocks.
Opportunity knocks. Larry Dallas, hi Richard Klein, how you doing? Visits and tries to sell them a mobile home. Oh my God! Stanley Roper's mobile home. That's the dream.
His dream! What a coincidence! Larry wants to sell them a mobile home, which is what Stanley wants.
And
Why does this sound like peak Larry? I'm sorry.
because it probably is. And if it's peak Larry, then you know for sure it's peak Stanley, and by extension, because Jeffrey doesn't like Stanley that much, if at all. Peak Jeffrey. Stanley almost buys the mobile home without telling Helen.
No. Well,
But of course, that doesn't happen.
no.
Aww.
Sadly.
So we go into season 2, which is the first show, which is the first season A, with episodes that are not based off the British episode, and B, that are airing on a Saturday.
Okay, I have a theory. Really fast.
Okay.
Maybe the reason the first season of the Ropers did reasonably well wasn't necessarily because of the time slot. It was because of the British writing. Then when it came over to Americans who were writing it, not just because of the bad time slot or in addition to the bad time slot, the ratings fell and it got canceled.
Yeah.
It's just a theory.
Now, interestingly enough, because season 2 does have a George and Mildred episode material, but it's not written by Cook and Mortimer. It's written by somebody who took Cook and Mortimer's original stories and sort of gussied them up for American audiences.
Well, Cook at this time may have been working on pre-production for Too Close for Comfort because he did quite a number of episodes for that series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that was also on ABC, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sort of a shared universe there. Hey, a shared universe between the Too Close for Comfort and the Three's Company series. There's something.
All right. Episode
Anyway.
7, The Party.
The party. Helen complains about never getting to take a vacation. So to keep her quiet, Stanley prepares a secret disco birthday party with the aid of his former tenants, Jack Tripper, Janet Wood, and Chrissy Snow. The episode is sometimes included in the Three's Company syndication package as Stanley the Ladies' Man. And shock
Okay,
of all
I have a
shock-
new theory.
Oh, God.
I have a new theory.
Go on!
Episode 1 was about a disco surprise party, and disco was dying at this point. That's why people didn't watch.
Yeah, wait to lead with your strength there, ABC.
Yeah, Steve Dahl was like, F this, I'm done.
Yeah, didn't he learn anything about disco television with Making It?
And not making it at the Playboy roller disco and pajama party. We all remember that.
Yeah, that's why Steve Dahl turned his TV off whenever ABC had
It's
something
like
disco.
he turns it on. There was the party episode,
And he was like,
done.
F this, I'm staging a demonstration at Comiskey Pork.
We are making a stand. We are making a stand. All right, episode 8, Days of Beer and Rosie. A man shows up at the condo and introduces himself as Stanley's son from an affair years ago. The Brooks want to send their son, David, to a private school. This episode based on an episode of the same name by Johnny Mortimer and Brian Cook. The son, Vernon Weddle, played the son, I'm guessing. Either that or Squire Friedel. Yeah, it was probably Vernon. It was
Weddle.
probably Vernon Weddle.
Yeah.
Squire Friedel was born in 1943.
He could have been held back a few grades.
Might. Episode 9, Power Play, based on The Unkindest Cut of All by Johnny Mortimer and Brian Cook. When the electricity to the Roper's house is cut off, Helen's sister is supposed to come for dinner, and Stanley borrows electricity from the Brooks. Because Stanley is cheap. You didn't know this by now. Stanley's a bit of a skinflint.
Yeah, and given he's like a superintendent type, he probably has a bunch of extension cords. That sounds like it's an electricity hazard. You shouldn't be plugging those in and doing like a daisy chain of extension cords.
Especially the late 70s when there's a power crisis.
Especially when there's no such thing as a surge protector probably in 1979. I know what type of extension cords we used in 1979. There's no chance in hell I'd use those nowadays.
No.
Nope.
Yeah, those are two-pronged. They don't have a grounding plug.
They don't. Okay, episode 10, based on the episode of the same name by Johnny Mortimer and Brian Cook, Baby Talk. Stanley fears that Helen will ignore him if they adopt a child. When a social worker says they're too old to adopt, he raises her spirits by giving her a dog. Muffin.
Who would give a kid to these two?
Somebody who is incredibly desperate.
Yeah, instead of beating him with a sack of oranges like Bing Crosby, he beats the kid over the head with a plunger.
Oh my God, Mike!
Maybe he just sticks it on his head. Okay, kid. Yeah, picks up the plunger. Okay, are you going to do this ever again? No, Daddy. All right, and then like whips him off the plunger and it falls to the ground.
Oh.
Okay, now you know why I'm not a parent.
Oh boy. Episode 11, Two for the Road. Stanley and Jeffrey get drunk and are arrested after both have arguments with their respective spouses. The arresting officer, Officer Hibbs, is played by Dick Christie. Future installment, Ace Crawford, and y'all know him as the dad who invented the small window.
Thank you. I was wondering why you didn't lead off with that.
Well, hey, we're going to do Ace Crawford Private Eye next month, silly.
But I thought he was better known for Small Wonder. That's why.
Oh, yeah,
I
Well, of
wondering
course
why
he's better known for Small Wonder.
Yeah, because Ace
okay,
Crawford Private Eye was 5 episodes.
Oh, okay, I thought.
It's like Ace Crawford Private Eye was 5 episodes, Small Wonder was 5 seasons. Come on.
Oh, okay. I thought Chico was bearing the lead there.
I was kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
You know who else was in that Small Wonder? Jo Marie Peyton France as a police officer, as a meter maid. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Oh, no, episode 12. This is heartbreaking.
Oh no! Remember that dog they got a few episodes ago?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Episode 12, puppy love. Stanley loses their dog and buys another one to try and calm Helen down.
Oh my God, Stanley! Why'd you lose Helen's dog?
You just got him 2 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. You've just had this dog, and now you've already lost him. What are you doing, Stanley?
Hey, at least Vinny on Family Guy got 4 episodes.
Oh my God. Episode 13, All Around the Clock. Based on the episode of the same name by Mortimer and Cook, on their 23rd wedding anniversary, Stanley buys a fake antique clock that happens to resemble the Brooks' stolen clock. Helen then tries to sneak into their house to return it.
You won't believe what happens.
Yeah. By the way, guest appearance includes Sam McMurray, later of the Tracy Ullman Show and Freaks and Geeks.
Yes, as Charles Remington.
Yep. Episode 14, Odd Couples. When Stanley accidentally sets his kitchen on fire... Gee, that sounds familiar. Brooks thinks it's from faulty wiring and lets the Roper stay with his family.
Well, Stanley, you're losing dogs. You're setting the kitchen on fire. What are you doing?
Well, again, he tried probably daisy chaining electric cords together to get that electric when he ran out of power.
He's not good at keeping his own house, is he?
No.
And he's a superintendent?
He's a superintendent. He's not good at keeping his own house. Mr. Furley could teach this guy a thing or two. Okay, episode 15, Pal Joey. When Stanley gets a new, or so he tells Helen, living room suite from his friend Joey, he finds out that the furniture once belonged to Helen's sister Ethel.
What?
Yeah. How is he gonna get out of this one?
Well, first off, 2 episodes ago, they bought the neighbor they unknowingly bought the neighbor's broken, stolen clock. And now they buy furniture that once belonged to his wife's sister.
And let's not forget the thing with the dog, Greg. Let's not forget the thing with the dog.
And it should be added that Joey was played by Richard B. Schull, who will appear in the future in future installment Holmes and Yo-Yo. He played Holmes.
Oh yeah, and John Shuck played Yo-Yo.
John Shuck was a yo-yo.
Hey, have you
Hey, we
seen
love
the
John
new
Shuck on these parts.
Hey, have you seen the New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking? He was a treasure!
Oh, yeah.
No, he's a great actor. It's just he didn't have the best parts. Turnabout,
True.
the
That
new
is-
Munsters, or the Munsters today.
That's true.
Yeah.
Episode 16, Helen Makes Music. The Brooks and Ropers fight over the commission money Helen gets when she sells one of the townhouses to a buyer, so the Brooks decide to buy her an organ.
Phrasing.
I think they mean an actual organ.
What is it with Helen? She wants a new dog. Now she wants
Helen's
an organ.
It's like Helen's a bit of a naive sort, isn't she?
Yeah.
I really think this new, Cheviot Hills living is getting to her. Some of the Brookses is sort of rubbing off on her, being a little materialistic, a little hoity-toity, a little upper class.
Welcome to the 80s, Mike. Welcome to the 80s.
Are we even in 1980 yet?
No,
I don't
no,
know.
we're
still in
we're
Thanksgiving
still in
79.
November of 19, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we can't say welcome to the 80s yet. We still got a month and a week.
Yeah, the Ropers aren't ready for the 80s yet, like the Village People.
Oh, but they will be. Not now, but they will be. Episode 17, The Skeleton. Jeffrey's hobo uncle comes for a visit, especially since a congressman is coming for lunch.
And playing Uncle Bill is Barry Nelson, who is best known for being the first actor to ever portray James Bond. He portrayed James Bond in a 1954 TV movie adaptation of Casino Royale.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, he was played, when it was originally on TV, James Bond was played as an American.
Named Jimmy Bond.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It was crazy. The 50s were a crazy time.
The name's Bond. Jimmy Bond. So I guess he likes his martinis stirred, not shaken.
Or he could like a Coors Banquet. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Cobra Kai season 3.
I haven't even seen season 2 yet, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And if Barry Nelson's name sounds familiar, he made the game show rounds back in the 60s. He's been on a number of Password episodes that Buzzer's shown.
Oh, yeah.
To Tell the Truth, The Match Game, I've Got a Secret, Personality. So he was
a
more
guy
of a he was more of a 60s
known
thing than he was more of a 60s thing than a 70s thing.
Yeah, he was a guy that made the rounds.
He was a known entity, as we like to say. And next we have The Other Man on episode 18. Helen asks the gardener to pose as her Latin lover Ramon in order to make Stanley jealous.
Woo!
Yeah. By the way, I believe the gardener is played by Jay Varela, not known for much. And now we have the introduction of Jenny Bollinger as played by Louise/Stevie Balance. At episode 19, and who's been sleeping in my... The Ropers find out that an 18-year-old girl has been sleeping in their storeroom for weeks.
How did they not realize that a girl was sleeping in their storeroom?
They were too busy buying other people's furniture, buying other people's fake antiques, and losing dogs, Greg.
They didn't notice there was a girl sleeping in the room?
They did not notice there was a girl sleeping in their storeroom because they were busy. They were busy buying stolen furniture, buying stolen antiques, fake and Latin lovers, and
playing with their new organ.
Good night, everybody.
Phrasing again.
Oh boy. And of course, most of the episodes from here on out start to be a little more Jenny-centric, maybe? Or at least this one does? The episode 20, Jenny's Date. Stanley pays the Brooks' nephew, Michael, $50 to take Jenny out on a date.
$50 in 1980 money.
$50 in 1980. That's a lot of money in 1980 money.
That's a lot of money that Stanley is paying just to take this girl out on a date.
Well, and yeah, it is a lot because remember, inflation really wouldn't hit until later in 80 and 81 and 82.
Yeah.
Not trying to justify spending $50 on a date in 1980, but yeah, that's quite a bit of money.
Hey, if I take this money, I might be able to afford that Atari 2600.
Or at least a game for it.
Yeah.
You can get Frogger now, Greg.
Yeah.
On the video game. That's the VCS, son. Okay. Episode 21. Based on I Got a Horse by Johnny Mortimer and Brian Cook. Of Mice and Horses.
Hey, you know what, Mike? I was going to say, you know what Mike Francesa would call this episode?
Of Mice and Horses.
Mice and Horses. 9 o'clock, here's the McMahon.
Hey, did you know I met Secretariat?
Yeah, I met Secretariat. Yeah.
Ethel's attempt to retrieve a valuable horse-shaped case, supposedly from the Ming Dynasty, from Helen.
Was that where they made the $10,000 Chinese fishbowl from High Rollers?
Oh, God. Yeah. So, horses. Episode 22. Family Feud. The Ropers and the Brookses feud on David and Helen's birthday.
And sadly, there's no cameo from Richard Dawson.
There's no cameo from... Do you realize the opportunity that was missed?
Yeah, it's on the network Family Feud's on. You could even get Richard Dawson for a cameo for an episode titled Fanny.
He would have been too expensive in 1980.
Oh, that's true.
Mm-hmm. Episode 23, The Other Woman. Wait, was there an episode? No, there was The Other Man, and now there's The Other Woman. Helen is convinced Stanley is having an affair when she sees him give a locket to another woman, played presumably by Lola Mason. This is why they don't notice Jenny living in the storeroom.
Oh yeah, because they have their own theories, their own stupid theories on what's going on, that they're too distracted by everything.
Okay, episode 24, Men About the House. Oh, I see what you did there.
Oh yeah, because the original British show's Man About the House of Three's Company.
Yeah. After Helen volunteers Stanley to babysit David on poker night, he takes him to the game.
Well, that's terrible volunteering.
That's also terrible babysitting.
It is!
But then again, you know what? He's going to learn about poker sometime.
Yeah. Especially when Gabe Kaplan hosts poker all the time on ESPN in a couple of years.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait about 23 years. You're going to see plenty of poker on TV.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Norm Chad's going to tell you all about how poker works.
And Mr. Cutter is going to call the play-by-play. True story, look it up. Episode 25, Old Flames. Stanley is jealous, surprise there, when Helen's old USO boyfriend wants to see her and makes himself a date with an old girlfriend. I'm beginning to sense a theme here.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. You totally missed the B plot.
What's the B plot?
Okay.
Tell me the B plot. I want to know the B plot.
Oh, okay. Oh, gosh. Hold on a second. David trades Jeffrey's model train set for Stanley's old inner tube.
What?
So little David traded his father's model train set for an inner tube.
What's Stanley going to do?
What was on the inner tube?
What was so special about the inner tube he wanted?
I want to know about this inner tube.
It was old. So, in other words, we're not going to see David Brooks on Let's Make a Deal anytime soon.
No.
No.
Yeah, would you like to trade the $1,000 for the box? Oh, inside the boxes is Helen Roper's lost puppy dog.
Oh my God!
Oh no! Episode 26.
We're almost done, folks. Episode 26, The Rummage Sale. Based on Jumble Pie by Johnny Mortimer and Brian Cook, Stanley's men's magazines were accidentally donated to a church rummage sale. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, no. No!
Spoiler, they're not National Geographics.
No.
They're not, no, those aren't, hey, this doesn't look like Architectural Digest to me.
No, I'm not going to say it. Okay.
No. Episode 27, 4-letter word. Good night, everybody. Based on the episode of the same name by Johnny Mortimer and Brian Cook, when Stanley goes over to his brother-in-law Hubert's office to get a job, he finds 2 tickets for Hubert and his secretary to Acapulco.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah, same here.
And finally, episode 28, Mother's Wake. Helen's mother holds a wake for herself at the Roper's house to discuss her will, complete with presents.
What?
Really?
Who holds a wake for yourself while still alive?
Mother, apparently, because that's exactly what happened.
Well, let's remember, was it Groucho Marx or W.C. Fields or somebody wanted to see their obituary before they died? One of those old-time comedians wanted to do that. I'm just saying. I'm just giving you an example.
Okay.
That's the show. Bye. No.
That's the show. But you're probably wondering, well, where are all these episodes now? They did, in the early 80s, syndicate this show as part of a Three's Company package, although it was syndicated as Three's Company's Friends, the Ropers. Because it was a common practice back then to syndicate under a different title.
Yeah, because Happy Days reruns when they were in syndication were under the title Happy Days Again.
Yeah. Happy Days was Happy Days Again. Chips was Chips Patrol. And the Ropers were Three's Company's Threads, the Ropers.
Thank God they don't do that anymore.
That would be confusing.
It would be confusing.
Antenna TV also aired a cycle before canceling it. And then it returned later in 2011 to air for another cycle as part of the Three's Company cycle.
Yeah, so what they would do is when Three's Company got to 1979, 1980, more 79 for obvious reasons, once the Ropers left, they then interrupted the Three's Company series and showed the entirety of the Ropers for 14 days or probably 3 weeks, because I think it was only on weeknights. So yeah, they would actually stop Three's Company when the Ropers leave, show the entire series of the Ropers, and then once they left,
we go to Mr. Furley.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they must have actually shown in unison Three's Company and the Ropers, because that would be kind of weird to go back and then pick up with Mr. Furley like you're talking about. But it's possible. But yeah, they did air it a couple of times in 2011.
And I remember, Mike, at this time you were very pumped when the Ropers was on the schedule back in 2011.
Because I had never seen it. Oh, I was really pumped, yes.
And it was everything you hoped for.
If you want to say it that way.
Now, let's get one thing clear I want to point out, okay?
Okay.
In July of 2002, TV Guide named the Ropers the 49th worst TV series of all time. And I'm going to say this. There is no way that this show is the 49th worst show of all time. Okay, is it great? No. Is it terrible? No. There's no way that this show
you know what's worse?
should be on a list of the worst TV shows of all time. It's
what's
on the list of the worst TV shows of all time because it's a spinoff of Three's Company that ran for 2 seasons. That's the only reason why it's on the list of the worst TV shows of all time.
He's not wrong.
And I guarantee you the people that made the list never actually watched the show. They just remember it from the 79 and 80, and they assume it was 2 seasons. It must have sucked. There. We'll put it on the list of the worst TV shows of all time.
No, you know what's worse than this show? Do you know what's worse than this show?
What's worse than this show?
Three's a Crowd is worse than this show. Not the cool game show with that guy with the hair.
Or the remake with Alan Thicke.
No. Three's a Crowd with John Ritter, Mary Carteret, and Robert Mandan. That's worse than this show.
Oh, yeah, I definitely
I was really hoping you were going to say Carter Country.
Well,
I'm not wrong, though.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, no.
I'm sure that we could come up with a list of 49 shows that are worse than the Ropers. And we probably covered all 49 of them the first year plus we've been doing this.
Oh, yeah.
I was taking a look inside Greg's mind. You know what his mind has?
What?
Whitney, 48 episodes of Whitney.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Well, this was 2002. They didn't know how bad Whitney would be. They didn't know there would be a show that's so... Hey, if they redid this list now, if Whitney is not among the 5 worst shows of all time...
I'm going to tell you right
now...
Go to
hell.
I'm going to tell you right now, one of the worst shows that would have been on that list if they did it in 2021.
What?
Actually, I can't because we're going to cover it later this year.
Oh, okay. No spoilers.
No, hey, this is a spoiler-free zone.
Yeah.
But it's not an eBay-free zone, I'm afraid.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
New year, same music. Hit it.
Mm.
I know you heard Chico's voice saying, hey, we're going to play eBay Prices Right. He didn't really have an item all planned. And I did because I was looking ahead of time, and I even declared myself ineligible. And then Chico said, you know what? I don't have an item up. If you've got one, it's yours. So guess what? You are bidding on a first season promotional still photo from the Ropers. It is a buy it now situation. It's still available for purchase. It's still for sale.
Okay.
It's 11 by 14. That seems kind of big for this picture, but they have a ruler there, and I'm going to assume that's 11 by 14. I can't really see it. It says 11 by 14 in the description, but I'm sorry, it looks like an 8 by 10 to me. So use your best judgment when you bid on this. I mean, they've got a ruler measuring the photo, and it measures to 20, and I'm going to assume they're in half-inch increments for some reason. So I'm going to assume that's 10 across and 8 down. And it's actually a picture of Audra Lindley feeding Norman Fell grapes, and Norman Fell is sort of giving the camera his smug little mug like he sometimes did. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's sort of mugging for the camera. And I'm going to start with Chico, because I think Chico won last time. Buy it now. It's still available for purchase. How much you paying for this?
Okay, I have a question. Is Norman Fell holding the plunger?
No, he's not. His hands are behind his head. He looks like he's lying on some sort of a pillow.
$9.99.
Okay, Greg.
$10.99.
Now, I'm just curious. If I said there was a plunger in the picture, would you have bid more?
Yes.
Okay. So we had $9.99 and $10.99. Guys, if you want this, break open the wallet. You're going to have to pay $30.
Yeah!
It's not worth much. He's not even holding his plunger.
No, he's not holding the plunger.
That's like saying, well, here's a picture of Babe Ruth, but he's not holding a baseball bat. Or here's a picture of Leonardo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but he's not holding his sword. Or here's
He could be holding a pizza.
He could be holding a pizza. Or here's a picture of Bob Barker, but he's not holding that skinny ass microphone of his.
No, here's a picture of Bob Barker, and he's not holding one of the models. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Christ.
We're gonna get letters.
Here's a picture of Bob Barker, and he's not fondling a contestant.
Oh.
We're gonna get
letters. I'm just saying, watch the reruns of Price is Right with Bob Barker, and watch how he invites the women to dive into that $100 pocket of his. Oh, you couldn't pull that crap nowadays.
Oh,
but
no,
1982, friggin' Pimp Barker's. Go on in, girls. Dig into the pocket and feel around. There might be more than $100 bill down there.
Good night, everybody.
That's the subject of SNL skits today. Or a game show in 2020.
Reach in. Come on, don't you want to reach into my pocket? No, that seems kind of scuzzy.
There's a little hole in my pocket. You can go all the way down to my pants.
Why did Louis Anderson just show up, Mike?
Put your hand in my pants and feel down there, girl.
Oh, Jesus. On that disappointment, I'll just say, the Ropers. It wasn't that bad of a thing on TV. Was it?
Hey, it's not the 49th worst TV show of all time, TV Guide.
Yeah. That would be the 49th episode of Whitney. Oh, sorry.
We may have to pull up that list and see what other shows are on it.
Yeah.
I know Springer was number 1.
Oh,
that's terrible.
That's a terrible judgment call.
That's a lazy list. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's TV Guide.
It's TV Guide in 2002. Of course,
it's TV Guide in 2002. They were going weekly, and they were getting kind of the they're getting out of the localized business. So.
Yeah.
But we're not getting out of the localized business just yet. You can hear all of our episodes on itwasathingontv.com. We're talking about full episodes, mini-sodes, live shows, and you can download them wherever fine podcasts are streamed. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, don't forget to...
Ring my bell! Ring my bell!
You heard the man.
I couldn't hit that high note, but
That's okay.
whatever.
Not everybody can hit the high note. That's okay.
Oh, but
But
next episode, well, as we said in the last episode, this was not planned to be timely when we scheduled it for this week, when I had to reschedule it 2 months ago. But this is sort of timely, but not really, if that makes sense.
it'll make sense once you hear it.
Yeah.
But until then, we thank you, we wish you a very happy new year, and we invite you to join us next time for another Thing on TV.
Wow!
We were just at work, and it was so boring and humdrum. 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 Doris said we should get fraps. It was Frap Friday, which is a Friday when you give fraps. Frap Friday. Frap Friday. Ain't nothing but something to drink. Kiss your ass off the grass. Ass off the grass. Frap attack. You grabbed me. She grabbed me. I got frap and massage. Frap attack. Frap attack. Frap attack. Frap attack. Frap attack. You grabbed me. She grabbed me. I got frap and massage. Frap attack. Frap attack. Frap attack. Frap attack. Grab the bottom. Grab the bottom. Grab the bottom. Grab the bottom. Frap attack. You grabbed me. She grabbed me. I got frap and massage. Frap attack. Frap attack. Frap attack. Frap attack. Ain't nothing but something to drink. Ow! My bottom!